We need to be watching out for what I would refer to as a red flag event to occur here very soon. As sentiment for US involvement in what's happening in Ukraine right now grows thanks to the media, we have to understand that our own Pearl Harbor moment could be days away at this point in time. And there is one particular event that I'm most concerned about. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper. Today we're talking about the red flag event we have to watch out for and how we have to understand what has happened in previous history in order to understand where we might be headed right now. In the lead up to the United States joining World War II, most Americans were actually against getting involved in a foreign conflict. On May 10th in 1940, Germany invaded Belgium, France, and the Netherlands, and 93% of Americans at that time were still against joining the war. However, after December 7th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japan, suddenly 91% of Americans said yes to joining the war. And this is why you have to be concerned about what could happen here very soon. And if you're worried about the repercussions of the United States joining a war over there in Europe right now, then hit the subscribe button below, because hopefully these conversations will help you better prepare both physically and mentally for what could be coming our way. Now, there is a large elephant in the room right now when it comes to our own Pearl Harbor moment here in 2022, and that is called cyber attacks. And understand that there's a lot of evidence for why this might be what brings us into the war at this point in time. In 2016, on June 15th, Reuters put out an article that was titled, "Massive Cyber Attack Could Trigger NATO Response." And at the time, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg in an interview said, "A severe cyber attack may be classified as a case for the alliance. Then NATO must react." Okay? And in 2014, NATO assessed that cyber attacks could potentially trigger NATO's Mutual Defense Guarantee, or Article 5, which basically puts you into a hot conflict at that point in time, and it allows for the use of conventional weapons in response to said cyber attack. This is what you should be concerned about and watching out for right now. Now, some things we should talk about based on what's happening involving the countries who are at fault. When we're talking about what's going on here with Russia, understand that there's a lot of interesting information surrounding their whole situation regarding cybersecurity. And you remember a thing called Cyber Polygon that happened back in July of 2021? Well, there's been some interesting developments surrounding that, especially considering that Russia was the biggest player of that entire event. Okay, so understand that the exercise was hosted by Buy.Zone, or BuyZone, which is a subsidiary of Bank, which is the largest financial institution in Russia. Okay? Keep in mind that 48 countries were involved with this training exercise and freely offered up their ability to be hacked in order to combat cyber attacks in the future. Okay? So, Bank, it's majority state-owned, but like I said, a very large financial institution in Russia. And the funny part is that, all those institutions are being targeted heavily right now via sanctions. And when you have payment processors like Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal all saying they're no longer going to offer service within that country, you have to understand that there's a large entity here who is involved in the largest cyber security exercise in the world just last year that holds all of the data and information from said exercise thanks to their subsidiary, Buy.Zone. Now, this was also largely promoted by the World Economic Forum, aka the purveyors of the Great Reset. And they even had an honored guest there, Klaus Schwab, who's the chairman of the World Economic Forum. Now, the other interesting part about that is that their other honored guest was from the Russian Federation. And in fact, this whole thing was very driven by Russia. Now, all references of Cyber Polygon have suddenly been removed from the World Economic Forum. If you go on their website and search for Cyber Polygon, you can find references to the program, but they will show you that the site is no longer available. The page cannot be found. All of that relationship seems to be being scrubbed away, which is interesting because it's sudden that Russia is no longer trustworthy or no longer able to be part of this whole Great Reset program, apparently. I'm not sure, I'll let you speculate on that. But also understand that this isn't just related to Buy.Zone and Bank or any of that other stuff that is, part of holding the keys to the city at this point in time, but you have to keep in mind that IBM was the top listed partner for the cyber polygon events and hosted all of the cloud necessary to have the bandwidth to do these exercises and everything else related to it. IBM is also the full portfolio holder of IT services for the US Army. Okay, so there's a lot of interesting integration here when it comes to military and technology, okay? And understand that IBM also supplies the United States government with supercomputers. So there's a lot of things that we have to watch out for in regards to what's going on in the cyber universe right now, especially in the sense that we know these attacks could be construed by NATO as being justifiable in the sense of answering with conventional weapons. We also have to know that public sentiment matters when it comes to joining a war effort, and that something big has to happen in order to push people over to the point of saying, yes, let's do this. And we have to keep in mind that there's a lot more at work here than just what's on the surface and just what's being told to us by the mainstream media. When there's reports of morale meals circulating on social media, and when soldiers are getting crab legs, sweet potato fries, and all kinds of stuff that you're seeing right now circulate all over social media, most of the people who are in those training facilities are telling us that this should probably mean that we're going to war. That might not be the case, but that is a lot of what people's opinions are surrounding the fact that suddenly the troops are eating very, very well. All of these things add up, and you have to keep in mind that at the end of the day, there is going to have to be some kind of major moment for that justification to exist. And whatever that will be, we may not know. Will it be something conventional? Possibly. Will it be in cyberspace? I think there's a good chance. And I think that we should be adding all of these different elements together that have occurred over the last 2 years to understand that there's a lot more at work here than what you and I are both going to fully understand. But at the end of the day, this is something we need to be watching out for, and this is something that could happen at any point in time. So hopefully this gave you some information to think about. Hopefully this gave you some other ideas to digest. But at the end of the day, the best thing we can keep doing is just preparing. Just keep preparing as best you can, because basically if the balloon goes up and everything falls apart, however prepared you are is where you're going to be at that time. So the more you do, the better off you'll be, regardless of what level you're at right now. And without anything else to say about this red flag event that you really need to be watching out for, and that if you have any information about or see anything happening, please feel free to leave it in the comments below, or make sure you join the Discord, which I'll put a link in the description as well as in the pinned comment for, so that way you can share information with the rest of the community and we can keep ourselves as informed as possible during these troubled times. We have to. But without anything else to say about that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.